We all know we're supposed to drink more water, right? But what about sparkling water? Today, we're going to find out if those bubbles can actually help you lose weight or if it's just a fun way to hydrate. I mean, you see it everywhere. It's crisp, it's refreshing, 0 calories. It feels like the perfect diet drink. And a lot of us have swapped out sugary sodas for seltzer, hoping it's some kind of secret weapon for our weight loss goals. But is there any real science behind that? Or is it all just, well, hot air? Okay, so before we dive into what the scientists say, let's talk about the hype. What are the claims that have everyone so excited about sparkling water? And you can see why people are hopeful, right? The thinking is pretty simple. The carbonation makes you feel full, so you end up eating less. Some people say it helps with digestion. But the really big claim, the one we're digging into today, is this idea that it could actually help lower your blood glucose levels. That's a pretty bold claim for just a glass of bubbly water. All right, so those are the promises. But is there any actual science to back this stuff up? I mean, how could a few simple bubbles possibly affect something as complicated as your blood sugar? Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the theory. So the whole idea boils down to this really interesting 3-step process. First, you drink the bubbly water, and your stomach absorbs that carbon dioxide, the CO2. Then, inside your red blood cells, that CO2 gets converted into something called bicarbonate. And this is supposedly where the magic happens. That little chemical shift might just activate enzymes that tell your body to use up glucose or sugar more efficiently. It's like this little biological chain reaction. Okay, a theory sounds good on paper, but does it actually work in the real world? Is the effect big enough to even notice? This is where things get really interesting, because researchers had to get pretty creative to put this to the test. So to figure this out, scientists looked at something that seems totally unrelated at first. Hemodialysis, the medical procedure. It turns out, during dialysis, a patient's blood also becomes more alkaline because of changes in CO2, and doctors started noticing something really interesting. Their patients' blood glucose levels were actually dropping. It's basically the same idea as the sparkling water theory, but just supercharged on a way, way bigger scale. So what did this wild comparison actually show? Well, it all comes down to one number, 9.5 grams. Okay, so what in the world does 9.5 grams mean? Let's put that into perspective, because this is huge. That 9.5-gram drop in glucose, that happens over a 4-hour-long intense medical procedure where a mind-boggling 48 liters of blood are processed. Now think about that. And then think about a single can of seltzer. Yeah, we're not even playing the same sport here. And that brings us to the researchers' final word on the matter. Basically, since the effect is so tiny, even under these super extreme medical conditions, there's just no way the CO2 from a can of sparkling water is going to be some magic solution for weight loss. The impact is just too small to even matter, really. Okay, so it's not a weight loss miracle. Got it. But it's still just harmless water with bubbles, right? Well, not so fast. For some of us, there can actually be a few downsides. It's time to read the fine print. The main problems are all about digestion. It kind of makes sense, right? All those bubbles can lead to bloating and gas. And if you happen to deal with something like irritable bowel syndrome or acid reflux, yeah, sparkling water can unfortunately make those symptoms flare up. So the advice here is super simple. If you love your sparkling water and it doesn't bother you, that's awesome. Keep enjoying it. But if you do start to feel a little uncomfortable, the key is just moderation. You don't have to quit it cold turkey, but maybe just don't have it with every single meal. All right, let's wrap this up. We've gone through the hype, the science behind it, and even the potential downsides. So it's time to bring it all home. What's the final verdict on sparkling water, healthy drink, or weight loss hack? This quote from Professor Sumantra Ray really hits the nail on the head. He says that, yeah, the theory is interesting, but, and this is a big but, it has not been tested in properly designed human studies. So that connection, it's still just an idea, a hypothesis, not a proven fact. And really, this is just a great reminder that when it comes to health, there are no shortcuts or magic bullets. For sustainable weight management, the foundations haven't changed. It always comes back to the basics: a balanced diet and getting some regular physical activity. So here's the bottom line, the big takeaway. Sparkling water is an absolutely fantastic, healthy choice for staying hydrated, and it's an especially great swap if it helps you cut back on sugary drinks. But a weight loss tool? Nope, it's not that. So, that's the real story on sparkling water. It's always so interesting to dig into these popular health trends and see what the science actually says. Which gets me thinking, what's another health hack you've heard about that you want us to look into next? I'd love to know. Thanks for tuning in.